Alors, bonjour tout le monde. Gabrielle pour Terres en Vue en remplacement d'Alexandre Nequado cette semaine. Donc, Kwekwe, André, Kwekwe, Shannon. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, I'm doing excellent, thank you.
Donc, juste avant de continuer avec notre invité de la semaine, j'aimerais prendre un petit 2 minutes pour remercier les artistes qui présentement travaillent à la reprise des événements culturels, des expositions, des pièces de théâtre. Donc, j'aimerais rappeler aux gens qu'ils ont jusqu'au 2 avril pour aller voir la pièce de théâtre Marguerite Le Feu, des productions Onishika avec Émilie Monet, entre autres. Ensuite, la semaine dernière, il y avait l'exposition de Maria Upfield aussi qui battait son plein à Diagonale sur l'avenue de Gaspé. Et tout simplement, pour ceux qui ne savent pas, demain, il y aura le lancement du projet Justice is Coming au mai, qui est un projet, entre autres, basé sur... c'est du 24 mars au 9 avril. Et ce sont 5 œuvres basées avec la thématique de la justice. Et entre autres, vous aurez l'occasion de voir l'installation vibrer au rythme des changements chroniques, Vibing Through the Chronicle Changes, qui est une création de Véronique Picard, Craig Commanda et Emilio Wawati. Donc, avis aux intéressés. Alors voilà, c'était le petit agenda culturel des prochaines semaines. Donc, sans plus tarder, I would like to introduce you to our guest this week. So Alexander told me that in Atikamek they say Chanook, but I know that for me, as I'm a French speaker, I still don't know. So I'll let you introduce yourself because I don't want to mispronounce your name, and I will learn how to.
Yeah, no problem. So, Ani Bojo, Zhaawnong Indigenous Cause, Jijakadorem, Anishinaabe Ninindao, Mississauga, Anishinaabe, Korth Anishinaabe, Burley Falls, Ontario, and Donjaba, Minoa, Kitaganzibi, Anishinaabe, Quebec, and Donjaba. So, hello everyone. My name is Zhaawnong. The pronunciation, there's actually 3 kind of ways to say my name, depending on where you learn, where you've understood the Anishinaabe language. So the name, my name is Zhaawnong, in Anishinaabe means Southern Star, and it's referring to that. It's a description, and it's an action word talking about that southern direction. And my pronunciation is Zhaawnong. Actually, fun way I used to teach people. When I used to teach people how to say my name, I don't speak a lick of French, so I understood nothing of that, right? But whenever I would teach people how to say Zhaawnong, I'd say use that je sound from je m'appelle, but then put like wow to it, so Zhao, and then put that nung on the end, Zhaawnong. That's how I describe it, and I don't even know what I'm saying. So there's you can say Zhaawnong, or in some dialects in our language, there's an A in between the W and the N, and it goes Zhaawnong, kind of more flows like that. It's like goes from 2 syllables to three. And then sometimes I even hear people drop like the ng at the end, and they even say like Zhao no. So yeah, there really isn't a right way to say it, depending on where you come from and what language you speak. If you're up in Quebec, you might be more familiar with the Algonquin dialect of Anishinaabe, which is a lot very, very different than what I'm learning over here in Ontario. And so Zhaawnong in Algonquin might be very different.
We invite you because you are known on the Indigenous Network on TikTok. And for me, TikTok is something brand new. I learned about it by the young people, young persons in the office. and they are not there today. So you are the teacher. You are in the classroom. That's perfect. So I can learn about this platform and the use that the indigenous obviously young indigenous today make of the possibility of TikTok to express themselves, to express their identity, and also, I don't know, I suppose, to create links between individuals and communities.
Yeah. TikTok has really been a real eye-opener, I guess, for Indigenous peoples these last couple of years, in just a way of showing kind of what's truly possible, right? When young Indigenous people have these tools and have these things at their disposal, right? So TikTok has really been uh, uh, even for the older generations and you know the older adults, they look at it like it's this new kind of miracle thing, right? But even for young people, um, all these things keep coming into our lives, and they keep changing, and the way we express our indigeneity and the way that we learn um, kind of how to be indigenous or our culture and our identities, discovering how to learn and unlock those things. All those different keys and those different resources are constantly changing all the time. And TikTok has been one of those keys. So for me, um, I started TikTok about a year and a half ago when I first came to Trent University, actually, and I began my studies in Indigenous studies. I also started my TikTok journey at the same time, and at that time, I was kind of just looking at it as a fun way to express myself and make these silly kind of comedy skit videos. And if you actually scroll on my TikTok all the way back to when I started, there's these really silly, like kind of comedy skit videos that I created when I was working at my dad's cigarette smoke shop. So it's just like these. I started out as just this silly little goofball who's just trying to make people laugh, and then that was when I started to discover the native TikTok, that indigenous side of the app. And just like you were saying, you know, it was eye-opening, and it was different, and it was kind of weird. Um, and as I started to use TikTok, and I started to discover that native TikTok, that indigenous presence on there. This was actually in the middle of the first year of COVID, right? And I think COVID, the pandemic, had really impacted our communities in a lot of ways. In that our powwows had to stop happening. A lot of our ceremonies, our seasonal ceremonies, they couldn't have our ceremonies because you know you couldn't have more than 5 people in an enclosed space. So I was actually I spent a lot of time away from ceremony. So during the pandemic, young Indigenous people were having a hard time kind of finding a space to feel seen and to express themselves. And so I don't think it was a coincidence that that was the same year that native TikTok really took off. Um, and it was that same year, so I think this was 2020 now. My head is so scrambled with the whole pandemic, right? Everything's mashed, right? But it was in 2020 that native TikTok truly took off. And I think that's what happened. I think Indigenous youth and Indigenous people, uh, we had lost certain aspects of expression. And so being adaptable and being able to change like we are, we found this platform to be able to express and to bring all that stuff to a virtual format. So at the time, even now, if you log on to native TikTok, it's almost like you're going to a powwow. There's all kinds of stuff on there. There's singing, there's dancing, there's art, there's craft, there's conversations, there's activism. It's just it's like its own whole Indigenous community. And I think that's where it all sparked, was when Indigenous youth and Indigenous people were looking for that community during a time where there might not have been a very strong community. So that's when I started on TikTok too. I started to I started to make my own kind of native style videos. Uh, and at the time, I didn't really know where my platform was going to take me, so I kind of just did what I thought was funny, did what I thought was humorous, and I thought would make people laugh, and yeah, I kind of just went from there.
What struck me also is how, because when I heard about TikTok before knowing, before seeing anything on the platform, everybody was telling me, oh, it's just silly and funny things, but really nothing serious. But I see you have a way to describe very dramatic sometimes or tragic situation, but the way you transmit the message is inventive, creative, funny, even if the content is hard and heavy. And I think, is it a part of the art of TikTok to do that kind of transmission?
Uh, I'd say yes and no. You know, as there's been a lot more indigenous presence on TikTok since it kind of all exploded in 2020 and moving into 2021, and now we're in 2022. You know, there's so many indigenous people who are on there doing this similar work, and I think um, there's different ways of transmitting this information, and I've seen kind of a pass and fail process, and I've seen kind of what works and what doesn't work. And one thing that I've been complimented on that a lot, actually. A lot of people have reached out to me expressing how impressed they are and how amazed they are that I can take information that is very hard to hear, and I I say that information with good energy, and I put that good energy forward. And so it really had me looking back and thinking about it. And when I'm on TikTok and when I'm browsing through that TikTok, right, um, I see there's a lot of indigenous people on that app that carry a lot of trauma and a lot of weight within themselves, and I can see that when they speak, I can see it come through them. So, for instance, when I talk about MMIW or missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, you know, when I talk about that stuff, it's very heavy, it's very hard stuff to talk about. Um, but I've not that I've done any like serious healing work or anything to help me with that, but I have a special skill that allows me to disassociate myself a little bit when giving the message, um, uh, so that I can put the message forward in a good way. And that's something I see a lot of creators struggling with on TikTok, is that it's hard for them to put their own feelings and their own traumas aside when they're sharing messages. And so sometimes uh, when they when they make videos about very hard things to talk about, it comes off in an angry way, or the video is almost kind of attacking and very angry. And I've seen that method of delivering this information. It's, you know, it's not sustainable, and I've seen a lot of creators being very frustrated with that method of delivery, because you know, it's not sustainable. And when you put that bad energy out there, and when you're angry and you're expressing things in that angry, attacking way, uh, you know, you're actually just damaging yourself even further. Um, and so I think a lot of people have a lot of healing work to do still before people can be comfortable to share this stuff on the internet. And myself, you know, I've learned to come to terms with what living as an Indigenous person in Canada looks like. a lot of people have had a really hard time accepting the reality of what today is like. And so I've spent a long time, I've spent years coming to terms with what it's like to live as an Indigenous person. And so myself, I'm always thinking about, how can I work with and benefit my future 7 generations. I'm always thinking ahead. I'm thinking about those future generations. And so I've learned, and I've learned from my elders. One thing a lot of people don't know about me and my account is that a lot of my videos and a lot of the stuff that I put forward on the internet is very, very heavily guided and influenced from my direct elders and teachers. So a lot of the information that I share is actually directly coming from my elders. So it's not, none of it is ever my knowledge. I'm always just the messenger. I'm that courier of knowledge. I'm taking what they say, and I'm taking what they have given me the pass and said, this is okay information for people to know. And then I use my skills and I put it out there. And so I've had to spend a long time. I've spent even years healing from that anger. For a long time, I was also very angry too. And I'm still angry. It's hard to accept it, to accept the truths and look at it in not that negative way. So that's what I've done. I've done some necessary healing work first, and then I've worked closely with my elders in figuring out what works best. And one thing I've learned from my elders is that the best way to interact with our traumas and with our histories is to embrace it with open arms and with love. Um, uh, there's been some awful stuff that has happened to Indigenous peoples in Canada, and awful stuff that has happened as the result of even very specific groups of people who still live amongst us today. And so it's very hard to as Indigenous people to live and to thrive as a culture in a space where the perpetrator of our ongoing genocide is still also getting to thrive. So that's a very hard thing to come to grips with and a very hard thing to interact with. And what my elders have taught me is to is not so much forgiveness, but more, holding people accountable, but doing so with good spirits and embracing people and loving people, and putting messages out there in a good way. Because if I shared what I share in an angry way, when you share things angrily and upset, you say things that maybe you shouldn't say, and you trigger a fight or flight defensive response out of the viewer, and then they're not able to understand and take what you're saying because they're backed against the wall, right? They're like, wow, this person's mad at me. What did I do? And so that's what I try to do. I try to make the listener known that they're being heard and that they're being listened to, because I've been backed against the wall like that before, and I know that I don't take good things from those situations. So that's what I try to put forward.
Well, thank you for those words of wisdom. It should apply to me, because when I write here before publish anything, I make the people around reading the first thing I wrote, and they always say me, "No, Andre, there is too much anger. You have to change." And of course, they are right. That's why when I write something, I really like to read it 2-3 times and to rewrite it, because of course the anger is there, and when you express it raw, it doesn't help nobody. You have to be more subtle in the expression.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what strike me now, I remember, because I am not a young person no more. I remember that the technologies were not so friendly for indigenous culture in the last 10, 20 years, because I was in the discussion when we started APTN, and the television everywhere were not speaking about indigeneity, or about our people, our cultures, our realities, our dreams. So this has been created, but for most of the people, it's still a TV. You are sitting in front of the TV and you are listening. And more often, the young indigenous guys were not listening to TV, not even APTN. They were doing those video games, and which is also a world where the indigenous culture is, we can say generally, completely absent. But now with TikTok, what is interesting, we have a technology who give a space for creativity for the young people that are involved in it. So there is like a switch, a change of the way the technology can be seen and used. And for me, it's really amazing to see people that all of a sudden are there with those technical things, telephone, computers, and all of a sudden they have to create something. So this is completely another approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about like TV and APTN and stuff too, because uh, again, that I was born in '99, so I've been a part of this whole new future. So I haven't had to see or really understand that kind of struggle of seeing Indigenous people on the television and stuff. And my mom actually shared with me recently that, you know, one of the first Indigenous representations my mom remembers seeing as a child was Buffy Sainte Marie, and seeing her on the TV, you know, and at that time, you know, to be Indigenous and to be seen on television, it's almost like you had to do something radical, or you had to get in trouble, or you had to do something unheard of, right? To even have a chance to be on the world stage like that. And so the incredible thing about TikTok and the way things are going now is that they've made it accessible to everybody. You know, you no longer have to climb some ladder in a corporation to find yourself on the world stage. You can just make an account tomorrow and start putting your voice and putting your opinions out there. And you know, that can mean good and bad things. You know, like all things. You know, when you give people when you give everybody that equal right to a voice, you know, you're gonna have bad people too. So there's goods and there's bad sides to things like TikTok. But a beautiful thing about these pages is that they're very good at kind of tailoring the content to what you want to see. You know, one incredible thing I found out the other day is this gentleman from my community. He's a knowledge holder, right? And he's a little older himself, so he wasn't so into the social media thing, and it's something that he's just getting himself involved in. And he was saying to me how he downloaded TikTok, but he never made an account. So when he goes onto TikTok, it only shows him, you know, like the stuff that's popular, right? And he said it was interesting because after a few swipes on TikTok of not even having an account, it was starting to send him native TikTok stuff and even my videos. And he knows me personally. And he said after like a not that long of having TikTok, he started to see my videos pop up on his For You page. Um, and he was telling me how freaked out he was at how accurate the algorithm was. He said, "Wow, like how did they know I'm Indigenous? Like how did they know that's what I want to see?" And I explained to him. I said when you go on TikTok, the videos that you decide to stop and watch and listen to, you know, the algorithms, they see that, they go, "Oh, so and so watched this video completely through, or they watched it twice. So we should send more videos like this to that person. So I explained that to him. I said, you probably came across a native TikTok video, then you probably watched it, and then you probably swiped past another video that you didn't care about, and then eventually, without even having an account, your phone was being sent all these videos. And he thought that was incredible. He thought that was like out of this world, right? Unbelievable. So yeah, it's been a really incredible journey, and I think it has a big part to play in how we're moving forward and how we're kind of having both our feet in two different waters as Indigenous peoples trying to navigate the Western world. So uh, it's really nice. It's nice to see, and I'm really honored to have to be a part in it.
Yes, I remember. I think it was about 1 year ago. In all the big news site like CNN, The Guardian, and many others, there was this young Navajo TikTokers just speaking about the absence of healthcare service in the Navajo land, when everywhere in Arizona, New Mexico, and the United States, they have access to doctors and hospitals and clinics. And it was really simple, just the guy telling slowly the facts. And it got a really big and large audience. And it got through the mainstream media. That is very interesting to see that, I don't know, a guy of your age in his 20s, all of a sudden is a star, I can say, at least a spokesperson for our communities. And it just pop up from the platform TikTok. It was really incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, like how quickly it can happen for people, Um, and a lot of people have learned about what people want to see, and a lot of people have learned how to use their expression and use the things that they're good at, and work alongside how the algorithm works and uh, how to get information out to people. And it's incredible how quickly these things can happen. Uh, I know for me, I've been on this account for a year and a half, and my growth has been incredible. And for some people, like some of the big name native TikTokers on these accounts, for them, they've gained a few million followers over the course of over like 6 months to a year. And so it's pretty incredible how quickly these things can happen. My whole first year on TikTok, I was only under 10 to 15,000 followers. I was pretty small, and that was for my whole first year. Like I had to spend that whole first year kind of learning and figuring out what it is I'm good at. And then coming into my these last 6 months, especially these last 6 months, I've learned kind of how to showcase and how to use my skills to get these messages out to as many people as possible. And so I started doing that, and that's when my account really started to take wind and to really spread across all of Turtle Island. And now I'm getting messages from people even out west on the west coast, from the west coast to people in the States to people up north. They're messaging me saying like, "Wow, I love your content." I think that's so amazing to think about, because I'm also somebody who loves to fantasize about the old ways. I think as a lot of Indigenous peoples can admit to, we like to fantasize about what the old ways look like, right? And so sometimes I think about uh, like, wow, how hard would it have been to communicate with somebody out west? Like we would have to travel, we'd have to paddle the rivers, we'd have to work really hard to get to know those people. They they'd have to go from community to community, and they'd have to or like relay a message from community to community if you wanted to have some information from the West come to the East. And now in the 21st century, you can make a video in 30 seconds, and then within the next 30 seconds that person can see it. So it's been a real blessing in a way. And I'm really excited and happy to have seen Indigenous peoples take full advantage of what this system is capable of doing. And so that's what I'm trying to do too. I'm trying to spread good medicine, and I know that it gets to all kinds of people.
And as you said, that's a good medicine. As when we see your videos, or when we watch native TikTok, it's sort of enlightening. I mean, it's a contact. Now people can see and can learn about the Indigenous community nowadays, and there's a lot of learning out there, and a lot of healing possibilities as well. When actually I watched your last video about the, how do you say, lune de sucre, sugar moon, or the well, actually,
The maple sugar moon. I'm trying to remember the word I use now, because it was we have a couple ways of saying it. I think I said Z's bok dokea Jesus. Z's bok dokea Jesus. Yeah, maple sugar moon.
yeah, in French we say lune de sucre, and that was like how to explain the season changing, the renewal of everything, the well, for people that's a good way. I mean, it's short and sweet, and it's learning raw material to learn and to heal, actually. So I wanted to thank you for your good medicine. That's
Yeah. No, I appreciate that so much, and you actually brought up a good point of like sharing just little bits and sharing good stuff in a short way. Um, and that's something that I learned from my elders, who are very supportive and and watch what I do carefully. They have said, you can't share everything, right? Our culture, there's a lot of aspects of our spirituality and our cultures that are only for those for those communities. There's a lot of knowledge that sometimes we don't share because it's for us and us alone. Or there's information or practices that come from ceremony, and a lot of ceremony stuff, you don't share with people. That part of our spirituality and our culture, that's only for those people who go to those spaces. So there's there's a lot of knowledge that is only for that group of people. So I'm always being very careful about, what do I share. And so my elders have been very supportive and helped me with that in kind of letting me know what to share and how much of it to share. And I make a joke a lot, if if you're familiar with Indigenous communities, or if you've spent any time in ceremony or working with elders. I always say this joke. I say, if you ever go to an elder with a question, you often leave with more questions. And so elders and our knowledge holders, they like to give you wisdom, and they like to give you information, but they only give you a little bit, right? Because they want you to go out. They want you to go out and do your own learning, and find things on your own. So that's something I'm trying to do too. I'm trying to give only little bite-sized pieces, so that people can take that and hopefully take it upon themselves to try to learn more, right? Because not one of us can have all of the information. So I try to give people little bite-sized pieces so that they can do their own homework.
I was thinking right now about even in the very traditional newspaper and serious media, there is always that little square that is funny. This is the caricature. And often the caricaturist is speaking of something very heavy, very serious, but in a few lines with the drawing, all of a sudden it makes you smile and it makes you think also. So I think that very small video, they carry a lot of information, even if they are so short. And I was wondering, the elders, are they looking at your video when you show them, or do they have their own TikTok connection on their cell phone?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that. Most of my elders, my a lot of my elders, they don't have these accounts, right? They're not on these parts. So oftentimes it's either me or it's somebody else saying, hey, look at this, and they show the video, right? And they and so for me, um, I'm always in conversation with my elders and they know what I'm doing, and they know the videos that I produce. So it's not so much that they see all of my videos, but I'm always going to them with questions and saying, hey, I want to make a video about this. And I always ask them, I say, what do you think I should share? What do you think is the best thing that people should know about this specific topic? And so they tell me, and then I use that information and I put it in my words, and then I put it up there. And so that's another really humbling comment I get a lot from people, is like they're amazed at how I can squish so much stuff into a short video and articulate it in a really good way. And so yeah, my funny thing, actually, one of my head elders of my lodge, the ceremonies that I attend, the head elder there, she's old, right? She's in her 80s. She just turned 80 a couple of years ago, and so she's up there, and she's not on social media, she's not, because she's an elder, right? She doesn't need to have that. And so it took a couple of members of our lodge who are younger and have these accounts, and they say, hey, look at this, look at what Zhaawnong is doing. And then yeah, she looks at it and she's like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then she's like, and then they asked her, like he's not sharing anything from ceremony, is he? And then they're like, no, he's not. And so and she's like, oh, that's good, because I have to be very careful. Somebody who's a communicator, somebody who is a courier of knowledge, you have to be very careful that there's things you don't share, right? So I'm always in relationship, and I'm always talking to people. For instance, my language teacher in school, my language teacher is also a big cultural teacher, an important person to me ceremonially, and she's somebody who's always encouraging me, saying, hey, maybe you should make more videos in the language, share more of our language, because she knows the importance of these platforms and knows what they're capable of doing. And so one thing that we're really struggling with as Indigenous peoples is the loss of our language. So that's something I've been wanting to take on more, is using these platforms and using the sheer endless capabilities of these platforms to share our language, and to get that almost recognizing that sound. I want people to recognize that sound. In Canada, for instance, everybody's familiar with French, right? Because French is one of our languages here in Canada. You go out to Alberta. If somebody's speaking French, they're speaking French, even if you don't know the language, right? I can always tell when somebody's speaking French, because it becomes common recognized. So even if people aren't learning our Indigenous languages, I want people to hear them, and I want them to be recognizable. So, for instance, if you go to a community and you hear people speaking Anishinaabe, that Anishinaabe language, you don't have to understand it. You just got to know that that's what they're speaking, and you got to recognize and honor those people for speaking it.
Yes, I remember in a festival we have done in Montreal, and we have theme the community radio that is broadcasting all over Montreal with the indigenous network at Scandic Montagnier, and they were all the information was in French, in Innu, and Atikamekw. So 3 languages, and I was thinking, wow, the people will be very angry. There is so long intervention with more than half they cannot understand. And on the contrary, the radio station receive a lot of positive comeback telling, wow, the first time we hear that those languages, and we should be exposed to them more often. So many people can try to tell you, or other influencer that want to use native language, that no, don't do that, you won't be understood. But it seems, on the contrary, that the most of the people will appreciate to have this exposure they are not familiar with. I was wondering how much abonnés, how much followers do you have now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. For recently, what's been amazing is my TikTok, and I'm also on Instagram too. A lot of people forget to realize is that I'm on both platforms, right? On TikTok, I'm at 63,000, and then on Instagram, I'm at 67,000. So yeah, I've broken that 50,000 mark on both Instagram and TikTok, which have been really impressive, and I'm really proud of myself too. And especially on Instagram, Instagram is a very hard platform to get a lot of recognition and to get a lot of following. So that's been my most proud, is being able to have almost 70,000 on Instagram. That's more followers than a lot of like Hollywood celebrities even have. So it's been amazing. But I wanted to quickly mention too about the language part. About people getting upset about the language. Whenever I come to a talk or I introduce myself to people, you would have recognized when I introduced myself, this morning, I used my Anishinaabe language, and I've had people say, like, why do Native people always speak in the language at first? Like, nobody knows what they're saying. Like, why wouldn't you just speak English? Because that's what people understand. And that's what we're doing when we introduce ourselves in that language. We're making our language known, and we're training people to recognize that language. And at the same time, we're also honoring those people who never got to speak their language. Our language was quite literally prosecuted and made illegal to speak for a long time, and our ancestors were stripped of that language in residential schools and stuff. So when we speak that language, even for that short little period, what could be 10 seconds, could be 30 seconds, could be 5 minutes, when you're doing that, you're honoring and you're speaking the language for those who couldn't, and then you're training people to recognize that language.
Yes, and for me, I like the AFNQL chief here, Ghislain Picard. He always begin his talks or speech in Innu, and wow, it establishes sovereignty also. Right? If the colonizer cannot understand that language, it means that we are still have this linguistic land of our own, and it has been here for a lot of longer time than the French or English. So I think it is a way also to express our sovereignty on this land to when we start by speaking our languages. So I think, do you have something you would like to add?
Uh, I mean, the language is so important. And one thing, I'm I'm trying to learn my language now, but I'm somebody who has to navigate around having ADHD. So I'm not somebody who can just traditionally learn things the same way as other people. So I've been really struggling in school with learning my language, and so uh, I'm somebody who is trying to go to ceremony and trying to fully learn, what it is to be Anishinaabe and how to be Anishinaabe. And one part, an aspect of doing that is through learning and understanding your language, because there's so much of our culture and our understanding that is embedded within our language. And so learning my language is something that's very important to me. It's a passion of mine, and I'm having to constantly navigate uh, different colonial boundaries that are in the way of learning my language. Like uh, our language isn't something that can be taught in an institution, and so that's something I'm fighting with now. Is is having to learn the language, in an institutional way. So I'm taking my language learning journey outside of the classroom, and I'm trying to learn it by speaking with my elders, with my knowledge holders, and I'm trying to learn the language in different ways. A couple of those ways, for instance, is I've figured out that I can remember things, and I can always hold memories if I can attach a story, or if I can attach a significance or an important part to the word. So if I learn a place name, for instance, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. So for instance, in my home community, there's a lake. It's called Stony Lake, a very famous lake in Ontario. It's a big cottage country lake called Stony Lake. But nobody knows that its original name for that lake was Gawakuskaning. Gawakuskaning. And that word, if you break it up, it actually means place where there is a lot of lichen. So you know that lichen stuff that grows on trees and rocks. If you go to Stony Lake, that whole lake is covered in lichen. It's everywhere. And so our people, they saw that and they went, wow, okay, let's name it this, right? And so I will never forget those parts of the word, like the first part, that ga. I'm pretty sure that means for like a lot, or forever lasting, for like lots, right? And then that wakus means lichen. And then that last part of the word is referring to it as a place. And so that those words I keep with me because I've attached a significant meaning to it. So that's how I've had to navigate learning the language, is I have to attach a story or a meaning to it. Another fun word I like to talk about is is odamen, our word for strawberries. It has the word O'Day in it, and O'Day is our word for heart. And O'Damen, that min is for berry. So we're talking about O'Damen uh, is all about that heartberry. It's referring to it as a heartberry because it's shaped like a heart, and it's even good heart medicine. It's good medicine when we eat berries. It helps our heart. And so when I learn the language that way, I'm like, wow, like that's how I need to learn the language, is that to attach that story and attach those teachings to the words.
So I'm just going to introduce you now. Alexander will be part of the podcast. He just joined us.
Hello.
Oui, oui, Alexandre.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Zhaawnong.
Nice to meet you.
Usually, what I do is I'm co-host, but for my part, I like to do a linguistic part. In that case, it was pretty easy for me to choose the word that we want. Your name, actually. What does it mean? I know exactly what does it mean. So let me show you what I did for this part. So, Zhaawnong, I know that in Ojibwe, Zhaawnong, it means from the south. If we say Jawani Nuden, that's for south wind. If we look for Plains Cree, they say Zawonok for the same thing in the south. Zawani Yuden This is a south wind. Muskri, they say pretty much the same. Zhaawnong in the south. And I see something different here. I see Shawnee, Zewani. At Quebec, in my language, we say Zhaawnong. Zhaawnong, le hook is like it's the term for the local. Jauneurio, ça c'est the wind blows from the south. Eastern Cree, they say Jawanutak. Jawanutash. I'm not sure if I said it good. And for the south wind, they say Jawanihan. In Inuaimun, it's less clear for me what they're saying. They say Aquanutin. Aqua for me sounds like something that negates something. I don't know what it is. I think it's a good thing that we should look into it. Naskapi, they have two terms for south: pismush and sound. Pismush, I think I understand that there's like the sun in that word. Pismush. Maybe something that means where the sun is warm. And as for the name, I see that Zhaawnong, it's an Ojibwe name, Shawnee. In Atikamek, we say Shawnok or Shanuk for some people. So for us, I guess we have to specify that it is a name that we're saying, not the direction. Because we can write Shawnok in Atikamek, but for French people, they'll have hard time saying that right. So this is for my part. What do you think about it?
Oh, that's amazing. I've never I haven't dug that deep into connecting the different languages in their words, right? And I thought that's amazing how our surrounding cultures around my Anishinaabe nation, all the surrounding cultures like the Cree and stuff, how incredibly similar our languages are, but they're different, right? I find that incredible, and I see that that's really neat how they use that same word of Zhao, but they say it differently, and those sounds to them might be describing something a little different, but it's all talking about the same thing. So I think that's really beautiful.
Oh, I'm actually at a workshop, so I need to leave pretty soon now. But I did my part, so I'll leave you. Bye.
Merci, Alex. Miigwech. So, did you have anything else you would like to add to this podcast for today, André, Jean-Luc? If you have, do you have any questions for André, or André, do you still have some things you would like to talk about? Because we're almost at the end of the road for today.
Well, I want to say miigwech. It was really fantastic to have you with us today, Zhaawnong, and I hope we will have other opportunity to meet and exchange again, and you can add a few others followers now to your TikTok, because we will certainly look at your next videos. Can I be indiscreet and ask you what about will be the next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I try not to get too I try not to follow like a strict schedule or nothing, right? Because I try not to take the fun out of it. I like to make things when I want to make them. So sometimes videos can pop up at any time, really. But one thing you can expect is I'm making I'm constantly thinking about wanting to make more Indian Act fact videos. You know, talking about the Indian Act system, because that's not common knowledge for a lot of people. So I'm constantly trying to give teachings and talk about the Indian Act system. And then I finished school in the end of April here, and during my summer months, I'm not taking on a full-time job responsibility this summer. So I'm committing a lot more of my personal time into my accounts, and so I'm hoping to push forward a lot of really good content, as well as possibly sneak peek. I'm thinking about starting my own podcast actually, and it's going to be in partnership with a few really cool people in my surrounding area. So I might be doing a very similar thing like this summer, where I'm just coming on and I'm sharing good things. So. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys bringing me on here. And if for people listening at home, if you wanna find out where I'm at, I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok at Zhaawnong. That's ZHAAWNONG, and I'm making all kinds of content all the time. And I always appreciate too when people reach out. So don't for people listening, you don't have to be. Don't be so scared to reach out to people like me. Say, send me a message. Say, hey, I really liked what you talked about, and introduce yourself. Say, hey, this is who I am, and I just acknowledging that they're following me. I really like those things, and I always try to take the time out of the day to either answer them, or I just like the comment to let them know that I saw it, because it lets me know that all of these people that follow me, they're present, and they're seeing what I'm seeing. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. I even with questions, I try to answer questions, and if there's a question I know I can't answer, sometimes I'll just straight up tell you and say, listen, I don't have that information, but maybe it's something you should carry with you and keep asking people. Or if there's somebody I can direct you to, sometimes I'll do that as well. So yeah, I'm really grateful you guys brought me on here. I always enjoy doing this and talking to people and getting all that good stuff out there. So Zhaawnong Webb.
And maybe by answering those questions, you'll leave people with even more questions, as you said.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And actually, if you ever come to Montreal in August, come and visit us with the Montreal First Peoples Festival. We'll gladly welcome you and to see all the shows, installation, and whenever you're welcome to Montreal.
Yes, anywhere you won't have a steady job, so you have no excuse to not come to the festival.
Yeah, I'll have to make my way up there more, and I especially want to try to make it to the powwow in my community in Kitigan ZB, because that's a community I'm from. So I definitely want to find my way into Quebec at some point. So I'll make a mental note of that, and I'll try my best.
So have a nice week, everyone. Thank you for watching us today, and thank you, Jean-Luc, for being with us, and thank you, André. See you in the office
next week. Ciao.